Hi, this is Stephen from OWNorDisown. In today's video, I am comparing the 2070 Max P Super and the 2080 Max Q Super that are available in the Eluktronics Mech 15G3. Compared to the previous versions, the shaders have been increased slightly. There are actually three versions of the 2080 Max Q Super. There's an 80 watt, 85 watt, or a 90 watt, and Eluktronics uses the latter, so that should give a slightly better performance. These laptops have a mechanical keyboard and a boosted i7-10875H, as I have already shown in the video showcasing that CPU. If you haven't already seen that video, I will have a link in the description. The full review on the Mech 15G3 will follow, so make sure you subscribe to catch that. In this video, I used a gaming power mode option, which has the CPU set with the PL1 of 45 watts. And in the review, I will showcase their beast mode, which increases the power to both the CPU and the GPU. So, without further ado, let's take a look at how they compare. First up is Battlefield 5 using DX11 and Ultra settings. Now, in all videos, I have the 2080 Max Q Super at the top and the 2070 Max P Super at the bottom. And I'm also using Max Fan in all of the gameplay. I will show the effect of using autofans on thermals in the actual review. Also, my 2080 Max Q Super model has been repasted with the optional liquid metal, whilst the 2070 Super uses the regular paste. This will help you decide on whether you think repasting will be necessary. It should seem that the liquid metal does shave off 6 to 8 degrees on both the CPU and the GPU. And the 2080 Max Q Super does hold an advantage in this game. In Overwatch, I use the replay feature, and this gameplay is at epic settings. The liquid metal again seems to be helping with cooling, and what I did find in CPU tasks, it was able to hold a higher boost clock, so I think it is worth doing. There isn't a huge difference in frame rate though. Here is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, DX12, higher settings using the inbuilt benchmark. Interestingly, the CPU usage on the 2070 Super model is slightly higher. Now, putting all this data into a chart for the three games, we see that the 2080 Max Q Super is 7% faster in Battlefield 5, only 2% faster in Overwatch, and 7% faster in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. There was also an increase in minimum frame rates as well. Now on to Far Cry 5 using Ultra settings, again using the inbuilt benchmark. Again, we see the 2080 Max Q Super being more utilised than the 2070 Super, and again we see a higher frame rate on the 2080. I suspect if you had the 80 watt version, then the gap would be quite close. For Doom Eternal, I used the same sequence of gameplay. Now, the Reaver Tuner overlay doesn't show up in this game, so I use the in-game frame rate counter. And this is using the nightmare quality settings, and we are getting insane frame rates. There is no way we can tell which system is faster. For control, I use an early sequence in the game, using high settings, DX12 and ray tracing on, with no DLSS. Now in the review, I will show the effect of using DLSS, and it does help a lot. GPU and CPU utilization looks pretty similar on both systems, and as for the frame rate, there is not a lot between them to be fair. Looking at the frame rate chart, Far Cry 5 probably does show the greatest improvement for the 2080 Max Q Super at about 10%, whilst Doom favoured the 2070 Super slightly, and in control we are only talking 2 FPS, so nothing really. Perhaps more importantly, the minimums favour the 2080 more, and this may be more noticeable in games like Control. For Project Cars, I did a practice lap on the same circuit using high settings. The liquid metal repasted CPU and the GPU are much cooler here, at least by 10 degrees. The 2080 Max Q Super is definitely slightly faster, but both are well over the 200 FPS mark in this game. Here is Metro Exodus using DX12 Ultra settings. The 2080 Max Q Super is definitely faster in this game, and again the liquid metal is helping with thermals. I must say, this system is well balanced in gaming mode, with a 45 watt PL1, and credit must go to Bob of All Trades for all the work he put in behind the scenes helping to tweak these power limits. I used the inbuilt benchmark for Red Dead Redemption 2. Here it is at high settings, with both anisotropic filtering and multi-sample anti-aliasing set at ×4. This game runs pretty much the same on either system. Even the thermals and the GPU utilization are the same. It's a tough game to get a good frame rate on though. Looking at the chart, we see anywhere from a 5% to 10% advantage for the 2080 Max Q Super. I'll tell you now, using beast mode and overclocking does favour the 2080 Max Q more, and I'll showcase that in the upcoming review. Okay, on to the final 3 games. For Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, I used the opening sequence of the game, and here it is using epic settings. The 2080 Max-Q Super holds a slight advantage, but nothing you would notice in game. The liquid metal seems to be helping once again, but to be fair, as you will see in my review, even using autofan with stock paste in game mode, the CPU is below 90 degrees. Here is Star Wars Battlefront 2 using ultra settings, both playing the same single player mission. It is hard to pick a winner in this game. Both systems perform great. And finally we have Rainbow Six Siege using ultra settings and 100% scaling using the inbuilt benchmark. Again, we see solid gains for the 2080 Max-Q Super, but I wouldn't call them groundbreaking at all, and the 2070 Super looks like the value option. Let's look at the summary chart. Only Doom showed a slight advantage for the 2070, but only 2 titles saw a double-digit percentage improvement. Now the average advantage of 5% for the 2080 Max-Q Super is rather underwhelming, to be honest. One must be aware that the 2080 Max-Q Super is more expensive than the 2070 Super by the tune of some $350. Now that's not just with Electronics, it is with other vendors as well. At least Electronics gives you the higher powered 90 watt card, and with their beast mode and optional overclocking, you do see some additional gains. But I do think for most people, the 2070 Max-P Super is the way to go. If you found my video useful, consider subscribing as it does help my channel. I'd like to thank you for watching. Bye now.